Hello friends, we are presenting a new approach to patellar instability by MPFC advancement. We start by a case. He is a 19-year-old young male patient with recurrent episodes of patellar dislocation. The TTDG distance is normal, around 10 millimeters, and the trochlear morphology is also type A, that is normal. The patellar height is also normal. So most important thing is we need to assess the instability here, and then we need to have this final outcome like this. So basically the MPFL is the medial restraint to the lateral dislocation. So we need to take care of that. So basically the MPFC advancement is a technique which includes the MPFL and MQFL both. So we can tension both the MPFL and the MQFL ligament. It is more biological, it is isometric. This can be done in young patients, so skeletally immature patient also you can do it, and it is devoid of problems or complications that are seen with MPFL reconstruction. So if you see here, this is the incision for the MPFC advancement. We take a medial incision, then we approach the first and second. So we cut the first and second layer. So we release the superficial musculocutaneous layer of the patella without violating the deeper capsulo-ligamentous layer. So here we can see that the inner layer of the MPFC complex is intact. So here when we approach this, we can see that this is the layer 1 and 2, that is the layer of the retinaculum, and this is the layer of the MPFC complex. This is the patella and this is the trochlea, and here also you can see that this is the joint, this is the patella, and this is the area of the MPFC complex. Then we will put our suture anchors. So we will put two suture anchors here, and then we will pass the suture anchors through the MPFC complex. So we will pass the suture anchors serially through these MPFC complex, and we will try to advance the MPFC complex medially. So then we will be tying this complex like this, and then we can do a double row fixation. So this is the final repair, and this is with the double row fixation, and this is the double row repair finally, and then we can close the retinaculum like this. So this is a very standard technique that and this is the 1 year follow-up of the patient. So this is the follow-up MRI after 1 year. So what we can see here is there is a very nice MPFL complex which is seen after this. So this is a 1 year old MRI, 1 year after the repair, and this you can see a very strong MPFL here, and the patella is also centralized here as compared to the previous slides. So the indication of this procedure is a recurrent patellar instability with at least 2 documented episodes with lax medial restraint without bony abnormalities, and then acute patellar dislocation with patellar insertional aversion and associated condyle lesions. The very advantage of this procedure is you can deal with all the condyle lesions at one go. So in this technique you can fix up the patellar lesions. If there are any patellar condyle lesions, you can repair these condyle lesions along with doing a MPFL repair. Now the prerequisites are there should be no bony abnormalities. So the TTDG distance should be less than 20 millimeters. The trochlear dysplasia should be up to grade A. There should be no increase in patella height, the Q angle, anteversion, and no rotational deformity should be there. Now the advantages of this procedure is this is an anatomical procedure. There is no or minimal chances of overtensioning, so the residual pain is very less. You don't need to take a graft here. There is no chances of patella fracture because we don't have to drill any tunnels into the patella. It is a simple procedure. It is an easily reproducible procedure. We can easily do it in a children. The early range of motion can be started. You can start the range of motion very early after this procedure. It is easily reproducible, and there is no role of any intraoperative C-arm. So you can do it without C-arm as well. The shortcomings of this procedure are if you have a multifocal MPFC injury or the femoral side injury, then you cannot do it, and if there is a generalized ligament laxity, then you should avoid doing this procedure along with the bony abnormalities. If you have bony abnormalities, you should not do this procedure. So careful scrutiny of MRI is essential. MPFL should be visualized on the MRI. You should perform anesthesia and examination and anesthesia. You should carefully preserve the capsulo-ligamentous layer while incising the musculoretinacular layer. This is the key step of the procedure. So whenever you are doing the surgery, this step should be performed. You should not breach both the layers together. So the dissection should be done in two layers. The first layer is with the capsuloligamentous layer, and the second is a retinacular layer. So retinacular layer should be released first, and after that you need to release the capsuloligamentous layer. You should tag the superficial flap with sutures and aid in retraction. You use a double loaded suture anchors. You can use suture shuttles to pass sutures, and you can use strong sutures. Normally we use a 5.5 millimeter osteocare anchors for this particular purpose. Now problems which can occur, so you can have a difficulty in separation. So if you cannot separate the musculoretinacular layer from the capsuloligamentous layer, then it may be a problem. Specifically proximally, this is very important, because distally you will be able to do separation, but proximally it will be difficult. Severely attenuated and flimsy MPFL. Some cases may require a standard MPFL reconstructions, although in our practice, practically we are able to do MPFL advancement or MPFC advancement in most of these cases. And we don't want to attempt to advance the superficial layer, which may result in anisometry. This is very important. So we should, the advancement should only be of the capsuloligamentous layer. You should spare the musculoretinacular layer. So this is a combined procedure that we do. So we do a TTTG distance which is increased. So we do a tibial tubercle anterior midline along with the patellar surgery. So MPFC advancement along with the tibial tuberosity anterior midline we can perform together, and if those patients in which there is a bony deformity, these procedures will do very well. So this is a new approach, and you can avoid most MPFL reconstruction by doing this approach. It is more isometric. It is easy to do. It's a very good, very low learning curve. Most of my fellows are able to perform this procedure after going from the fellowship. They don't need any special skills to perform this procedure. So it's an easy procedure, easily reproducible procedure in a common surgeon's hand. It is easy to do. So this is my algorithm that you should all know whenever you decide get a patient of patellar instability. The first thing is, if there is a type A or type C trochlea with less than 20 millimeter TTTG distance and less than 1.2 millimeter Ketton Deschamps, you do a soft tissue procedure, which in my is a MPFC advancement. So this is my indication of doing a MPFC advancement. If there is a little bit of trochlear dysplasia with TTTG more than 20 millimeters, then I add a tibial tuberosity osteotomy, tibial tubercle osteotomy to the MPFC surgery. If there is a type B or type D trochlea, we can do a sulcus deepening trochleoplasty. We have developed a special jig for trochleoplasty, and here we can do sulcus deepening trochleoplasty if there is a type B and type D trochlea, and this you can do up to 24 millimeters. If it is more than 24 millimeters the TTTG distance, then you can have to combine both tibial tubercle osteotomy along with the trochleoplasty, and if there is a significant patella alta, you may need to add a distalization procedure. So this is very important diagram. So the patellar contact areas are different. So in 0 degree it is above the trochlea, then 30 degrees it is starting of trochlea, then 60 degrees, and as you go into the notch flexion, increased flexion, you go into the notch. So the superior most portion of the trochlea is active in full extension. This is very important. So in full extension, the trochleoplasty is very helpful. So whenever we want to do a trochleoplasty, there should be a trochlear asymmetry or trochlear dysplasia in full extension, then you need to do a trochleoplasty procedure. So patellar instability in full extension, you may need to do a trochleoplasty procedure. Now this is the medial anatomy of the knee. This is the MPFL complex. The MQFL runs here, and in our technique we will use all this as a single layer. So this will include MPFL and MQFL both. Now on physical examination of these patients, you need to check the lateral apprehension test, J sign, glide test and tilt test. J sign is basically suggestive of a trochlear asymmetry or trochlear dysplasia. Glide test, you have to see, usually if your patella can be slided more than 3 quadrants, it is abnormal. If it is less than 1 quadrant, it is considered to be stiff. So if you divide your patella into 4 quadrants like this, 1, 2, 3 and 4, if it is more than 3 quadrants can shift, then the patella is very unstable. Tilt test can also be done. If the tilt is more than 10 degrees, that is abnormal. This is the patella morphology. This is the type 1 patella, this is type 2, type 3 and type 4, and type 4 are more prone to lateral dislocations. So acute dislocations can be with osteochondral fractures, and most of these patients can be treated conservatively. But if you have a significant laxity, if you have a MPFL tear from the patella, then you can do a primary repair along with a repair of the osteochondral injury. So as I told you, patellofemoral instability, if you have bony issues, you do either tibial tuberosity or trochleoplasty, and if you have soft tissue, in my cases I will do a MPFC. Many people do a MPFL reconstruction for this, but we will do a MPFC advancement in most of these cases in which we want to treat the soft tissue. So this is an acute MPFL tear. Here you can see that there is a tear, and here the MPFL is torn, and if we can repair this MPFL back here with a suture anchor here and tie it back, then you can get the best possible result. So traumatic tears are mostly from the patellar insertion, about 50 to 90%, and these are good cases for us to do a MPFC advancement. So lateral instability, here we can see. So bony fractures are most commonly as trochlear dysplasia, patella height and TTDG distance, and if these are abnormal, you need to do something else than doing a MPFC procedure or a MPFC advancement alone. So this is the DiGeorge classification. Type A is just a shallow trochlea, but type B and D are bad. So type D, you will have a crossing sign, supratrochlear spur and a cliff here. So this is the region which is pathological here. In type B, we will have a flat trochlea, and in type C, you will have double contour ending before the crossing sign, and there will be a crossing sign here. But supratrochlear spur will be present in type B and type D trochlea, and these two types are ideally addressed with a trochleoplasty procedure, in which we want to deepen this spur with the trochleoplasty jig and trochleoplasty guide that we have developed. So here you can see that this is a shallow trochlea, type A. Type B is a flat trochlea with, you can see a supratrochlear spur here. Type C is a lateral convexity with medial hyperplasia, and you will have a double contour. So you will have 1 and 2 contours here, and this is a medial hypoplasia. So these cases are also good. You can still address them with a MPFC or a soft tissue surgery, whereas type D is the worst type of dysplasia, in which there is a cliff, and actually you need to remove this cliff and deepen this for doing a trochleoplasty procedure. And this again is a flat trochlea. You can see the crossing sign, convex trochlea. Again, these are the indications for doing a trochleoplasty procedure. So again, supratrochlear spur, here you can see supratrochlear spur, and this is a double contour which is seen in type C. So one line here and one line here, you can see. Patella alta is increased height. So if you have an increased height, the patella will not catch, it will remain up. So it will be here, higher up. And this will cause more instability. So you can do a distalization of patella by doing a soft tissue or a bony procedure here. So patella alta, here you can see that you can check the Insall-Salvati ratio, or you can take the Blackburn-Peel ratio, or you can take the Catton-Deschamps ratio. This is the most commonly followed ratio, and this is important because this is independent of knee flexion. It takes both patella tendon length and insertion into consideration, and if this ratio is more than 1.2, it is pathological, and you should do something to address the patella alta. So treatment of patella alta can be a tibial tubercle distalization or a soft tissue procedure. So if TTDG distance is more than 20 millimeters, it is pathological. You need to check it on either CT scan or MRI. The incidence of patella pain and instability increase with the TTDG ratio. So if it is more than 12.5 to 13.5, you may have a higher incidence of patellar instability. You need to use the most proximal portion of cartilage covered on trochlea. And this is the diagram of tilt versus subluxation. So there is a tilt here and the subluxation. So tilt is like this, and the subluxation is like this. So this is very important concept. You can take a Lawrence view, which is an axial section at a 20 degrees. So this is the Lawrence section in which you can take the trochlear geometry. Lateral patellofemoral angle will also give you a good idea of the patellar tilt. Soft tissue procedures, you can do MPFL advancement, MPFL reconstruction, or a VMO advancement. So in our practice, MPFL or MPFC advancement is the key surgery that we do in most of our patients, and we will rarely add a lateral release to it as a soft tissue procedure. So you can see here that the MPFL is lax. This is like a bulgy or a boggy tissue here, and we need to separate it, and then we can tension it nicely with our technique. So these are the technique that we follow, as I told you at the initial part of the topic. So very rarely we need to do a lateral release, just like in cases of post-TKR instability or maltracking. Schlotter's point is important when you are doing an MPFL reconstruction, and if you vary a little bit, so if you go like this or this or this, then you can have an isometric point on the MPFL reconstruction, and the patient can be stiff, and that can create problems later on. So this is very important. Whenever we are doing an MPFC advancement, you don't need to worry about Schlotter's point, and it is easier to be a more isometric in MPFC advancement as compared to a MPFL reconstruction. Thanks a lot.